My father lifted his champagne glass at my sister's wedding and told 200 guests I was the only stain on an otherwise perfect night. For 3 seconds, the entire ballroom went silent. Even the string quartet in the corner seemed to lose its nerve. The violinist's bow hovered above the strings. A waiter stopped halfway between tables with a tray of champagne balanced on one hand, every gold chair, every white rose, every crystal chandelier in that Napa Valley estate seemed to turn toward me. I was standing near a side wall, close enough to look like family, far enough to be invisible in the official photos. That was where my mother had placed me. Not too Placido the head table, Emily, she had whispered that afternoon while smoothing my hair like she was fixing a wrinkle in a tablecloth. Today is Claire's day, try not to make it about your feelings. My feelings? That was what my family called humiliation when it happened home. I had learned to swallow it early. In the Whitmore family, Claire was the diamond. She was the daughter who graduated from Stanford, posed naturally in charity gala photos, knew which fork to use at a 6-course dinner, and smiled like nothing bad had ever touched her. I was the other daughter. The one who dropped out of college for 1 year to take care of our grandmother when she got sick. The one who built logos and wedding invitations for small businesses from a desk in my one-bedroom apartment. Theon, my father said, had wasted the Whitmore name on little Etsy dreams. My father, Richard Whitmore, had built luxury housing developments across California. People stood when he entered a room. County officials answered his calls. Bankers laughed at jokes that were not funny. He was handsome in a cold, expensive way, with silver hair, sharp suits, and the kind of confidence that made cruelty sound like leadership. My mother, Denise, sat beside him in a pale champagne gown, her diamonds catching the light whenever she moved her hand. She looked calm, polished, almost proud. Claire stood in the center of the ballroom in a wedding dress that probably cost more than my car. Her new husband, Preston, stood beside her, smiling like a man who had just bought the right future. And I stood by the wall in a cream dress I borrowed from my cousin because my mother had said the navy one I owned looked too funeral. Then my father kept talking. Tonight, he said into the microphone, we celebrate our daughter Claire, a woman of discipline, elegance, and achievement. A daughter who has honored this family in every possible way. People clapped. He waited, enjoying it. Then he turned his head slightly toward me. Not every child understands what it means to carry a family name. Some mistake rebellion for personality. Some mistake failure for freedom. But tonight is not about disappointments. Tonight is about success. The word disappointments landed on my chest like a hand. A few people looked down at their plates. One of my aunts pressed her lips together. My cousin Megan's eyes filled with panic, like she wanted to stand up but knew she would be punished for it later. Preston's parents exchanged a look that made me feel smaller than I already did. I stared at my water glass. I had not even been allowed champagne. My mother had leaned close before dinner and said, please don't drink. You get emotional. I wanted to walk out. I wanted to put the glass down, cross that polished floor, and leave before my father found another sentence to sharpen against me. But shame has a strange weight. It freezes you. It tells you if you move, everyone will know you are wounded. So I stayed still. My father raised his glass higher. To Claire, he said. The daughter who made us proud. Applause filled the ballroom, thin at first, then louder as people chose comfort over decency. Then a chair scraped against the floor. Enough. The voice came from the back. I turned. Noah was standing between two tables, wearing a plain black suit and a look I had never seen on his face before. Noah Carter had been my boyfriend for 2 years. He was a wedding photographer, the kind who noticed trembling hands, lonely mothers, grooms pretending not to cry. He had a way of looking at people that made them feel seen instead of captured. My mother had assigned him to the vendor's table, even though he was there as me guest. A photographer is not family, she had said. Noah did not move like he a guest anymore. He walked straight toward the dance floor. My father lowered the microphone. Who gave you permission to interrupt my daughter's wedding? No one, Noah said. That seems to be the problem in this family. Everybody waits for your permission to do the right thing. A murmur moved through the room. My mother stood. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice polished enough to cut glass, this is a private event. If you don't know how to behave, security can escort you out. Noah did not even look either. He looked at me. Emily is not a stain, he said. She is not a failure, she is not the family embarrassment. The embarrassment is a father who uses adding toast to humiliate his own daughter. Because she stopped letting him control her. My father stepped down from the stage. Watch your mouth. I am, Noah said. That's why I haven't said what I know yet. Something shifted. I saw it first in my mother's face. Only for a second, but it was there. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked toward my father, then toward Claire. What did Noah know? My heart started hammering. Noah, I whispered. He reached into his jacket pocket. For one wild second, I thought he was pulling out proof. A document. A recording. Something that would explain why my mother suddenly looked like the floor had cracked beneath her. Instead, he pulled out a small blue velvet box. The room gasped before I did. He walked to me, right there in the middle of my sister's luxury wedding, under 12 chandeliers and 200 judgmental eyes, and dropped to one knee. My hands flew to my mouth. Noah, I said again, but it came out broken. He opened the box. The ring was not huge. It was not Whitmore huge. It was delicate, vintage, with a tiny oval diamond and two little sapphires on the sides. It looked like something chosen with love, not money. Emily, he said, loud enough for the ballroom to hear, I didn't come here to rescue you. You were never weak. I came here because I am tired of watching people who should love you make you feel like you have to earn a place in your own life. Mies burned. You deserve love that doesn't ask you to apologize for existing, he continued. You deserve a home where your name is spoken with tenderness. You deserve someone who is proud to stand beside you, especially when it costs something. My father's face turned red. My mother looked like she might faint from embarrassment or rage. I was not sure which one. Claire stood frozen, gripping her bouquet so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Will you marry me? Noah asked. For a moment, I could not breathe. I thought of every dinner where my father corrected my tone. Every Christmas where my mother bought Claire silk and bought me self-help books. Every time I was told I was too sensitive, too stubborn, too ungrateful, too much like my grandmother. Then I looked at Noah. He was not asking me to become someone else. He was asking me to choose myself. Yes, I whispered. The room erupted. Some people clapped. Some gasped. Someone near the bar laughed nervously. My mother said my name like a warning. I said it louder. Yes, Noah. I'll marry you. When Hess slid the ring onto my finger, I heard my father's glass hit the floor. It did not shatter, but the sound was sharp. Enough to cut through everything. Get out, he said. Noah stood and took my hand. My father pointed toward the doors. Both of you. Get out of my estate. I should have been crying. I should have been terrified. Instead, something in me went quiet. Not peaceful. Ready. Noah squeezed my hand, and we started toward the exit. Then Claire moved. My sister dropped her bouquet on the floor and ran after us, her veil dragging behind her like a torn flag. Wait, she said. My father snapped, Claire. She stopped between us and him. Her eyes were wet. Her perfect makeup had cracked at the edges. For the first time all night, she did not look like the chosen daughter. She looked like a woman trapped inside a beautiful cage. Emily can't leave yet, she said. My mother grabbed the back of a chair. Claire, do not do this. Claire looked at me. Her voice shook. Before she goes, she needs to know what Dad hid from her after Grandma Ruth died. The silence after Claire's words was worse than my father's insult. It spread through the ballroom like smoke. My father stared at her as if she had slapped him in public. My mother's face drained of color beneath her makeup. Preston stepped toward Claire, confused and irritated, but she lifted one hand to stop him. What are you talking about? I asked. My voice sounded small, almost childish. I hated that. Claire swallowed. Grandma Ruth's house. I felt the room tilt. My grandmother's house. The blue craftsman bungalow in Oakland with the lemon tree in the backyard and crooked porch steps and yellow curtains she refused to replace because she said they held sunlight better than new ones. It was the only place in my childhood where love did not come with conditions. After Grandma Ruth died, my father told Meth House had been sold to pay medical debts. I cried for weeks. Not just for the house, but for the feeling that the last safe place in the world had been taken without goodbye. What about it? I asked. My father's voice cut in, nothing. Your sister is emotional. It's her wedding day. Claire laughed once, and the sound was ugly with pain. Don't use my wedding day as a muzzle. My mother hissed, Claire. No, Claire said. I let you turn me into the perfect daughter for too long. I'm done. People had started pulling out phones. I saw little screens glowing above tables. My father noticed too, and his expression changed. He was no longer just angry. He was calculating. Put your phones away, he ordered. This is a private family matter. No one moved. Claire looked straight at me. Grandma Ruth left the house to you. My body went cold. No, I said. She did, Claire said. She left you the house, a trust for design school, and her half of the little textile brand you two started when you were 19. My knees nearly buckled. When I was 19, Grandma Ruth and I made scarves from old patterns she drew by hand. We sold 11 of them at a local market and laughed like we had built an empire. She called it Ruth and M. I thought it was just a sweet little thing between us. You're lying, I whispered, not because I believed that, but because I needed the world to stay familiar for one more second. Claire shook her head. I saw the papers. When? After she died. Dad brought documents home. I was looking for my passport in his office because we were flying to Aspen the next morning. I saw Grandma's will. I saw your name everywhere. My father took 2 steps toward her. Claire, stop talking. She did not. He told me you were too unstable to handle property. He said you'd lose the house. He said he was protecting the family. Then a few months later, he bought me the condo in Palo Alto. I looked at her. You knew? Her face crumpled. Yes. That hurt more than my father's toast. It hurt because Claire was not just the favorite. She had been my sister once. Before the dresses and the private schools and the careful separation my parents built between us, she used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. She used to make me peanut butter toast when Mom went on silent treatment days. She used to know when I was crying even if I locked the bathroom door. You knew, I said again. I was 22, she whispered, old enough to know better. Young enough to still be terrified of losing everything. My father exploded, you ungrateful little girl. Noah stepped in front of Claire before my father could get closer. Back up. My father glared at him. You have no idea what you're interfering with. I think I do, Noah said. And so does my aunt. My mother's eyes snapped to him. What aunt? Noah did not answer her. He looked at me. My Aunt Marlene worked as a probate paralegal for the attorney who handled your grandmother's estate. She found something strange 2 months ago when Claire reached out to her. Claire closed her eyes. That was twist one. Not just a confession. A plan. I stared at them both. You two talked? Claire nodded. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't think you'd believe me. I didn't deserve to be believed. So I tried to find proof first. My father's voice dropped dangerously low. You went behind my back? Claire turned toward him. You stole from your own daughter. The room erupted. My mother rushed forward, hands raised like she was calming a crowd at a charity luncheon. Please, she said, suddenly soft. This is a misunderstanding. We can talk about this as a family. I laughed. I did not mean to. It just came out. A hard, bitter sound that made my mother flinch. As a family? I said. You stuck me by the wall, told me not to be in photos, let Dad call me a stain, and now that people are recording, we're family? My father pointed at me. Don't act like a victim. You would have destroyed that house. You had no money, no degree, no discipline. I had Grandma, I said, and she was sentimental, he snapped. She didn't understand business. There it was. Not denial. Just contempt. The kind of contempt that had probably signed my name, emptied my trust, and called it protection. Noah tugged gently at my hand. We should go. Claire turned to Preston. I'm leaving. Preston blinked. Leaving? Claire, we have guests. My sister was robbed. We can deal with that later. Claire stared at him for a long second. That sentence tells me everything I need to know. She lifted the front of her dress and walked toward us. My mother grabbed her arm. Don't you dare humiliate this family. Claire pulled free. You built this family on humiliation. And then my sister, still in her $18,000 wedding dress, walked out of her own reception with me. Outside, the Napa air was cool and smelled like wet grass and roses. I expected photographers. Screaming. Security. Maybe my father chasing us down the steps. Instead, there was just the sound of my own breathing breaking apart. I folded in half near the valet stand and sobbed. Noah held me. Claire stood beside us, shaking, mascara running down her Facian black lines. For a while, nobody said anything. Then Claire whispered, I'm sorry. I wanted to slap her. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to rewind our lives to before money turned love into a ranking system. Instead, I said, don't say that unless you're ready to keep going. She nodded. I am. We spent that night in Noah's small apartment in Sacramento, 3 people packed into one living room, surrounded by camera bags, takeout containers, and a silence too big for the walls. I did not sleep. At 4:12 in the morning, Claire came out of the bathroom wearing one of Noah's old sweatshirts over her wedding slip. She looked 15 again. She put a folder on the coffee table. I brought copies. My hands trembled before I touched it. Inside were emails, scans, bank transfers, and photographs of documents. My grandmother's will. A trust statement in my name. A deed transfer. An LLC connected to Whitmore Development. A copy of a signature that was supposed to be mine but looked like someone had copied it from an old birthday card. And a letter. The envelope had my grandmother's handwriting. Emily Rose Whitmore. I pressed it to my chest before opening it. The letter smelled faintly like paper, dust, and something sweet I probably imagined. My dear M, if you are reading this, I hope you are standing in sunlight. I have watched people and his family mistake obedience for goodness. I have watched them punish tenderness because they cannot control it. You, my girl, were born with your own light. Do not let anyone convince you to. Apologize because it shines differently. The house is yours because it was always the place where you could breathe. The money is yours because your dreams are not smaller just because your father cannot measure them. The little brand is ours, and now it is yours. Make something honest with it. Promise me you will not spend your life begging for a chair at a table where they feed you crumbs and call it love. I broke. Not a graceful tear. Not a cinematic cry. I folded over that letter and cried until my ribs hurt. Claire cried too, from the other end of the couch. She did not come closer. Maybe she knew she had not earned that yet. Noah sat on the floor beside me and held my hand until morning. By 10 a.m., the video of my father's toast had reached half of Napa. By noon, it was online. Someone had posted it with the caption, "Real estate. King humiliates daughter at wedding, gets exposed by bride." By dinner, bloggers were using my father's name. That was when my parents showed up at Noah's apartment with 2 suitcases and an attorney. My mother wore sunglasses, though the hallway was dim. My father carried himself like he owned the building. The attorney, a narrow man named Vince Keller, held a leather folder and looked like he billed by the breath. "Emily," my mother said softly. "We need to fix this." I stood in the doorway. "No. You need to control it." Her mouth tightened. My father stepped forward. "Invite us in." "No," his face hardened. "Do not embarrass me in a public hallway." I almost laughed at that. Noah appeared behind me. "You heard her." My father looked him up and down. "You are enjoying this, aren't you? A broke photographer finally found a way into a family with money." Noah smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Mr. Whitmore, your daughter owns more truth right now than you own land." Vince cleared his throat. "We're prepared to offer a settlement," he said. "A generous one. Provided all parties agree to confidentiality, removal of online materials where possible, and no further public allegations." Claire came out of the kitchen. She had changed into jeans and one of my old sweaters. Her hair was in a messy bun. She looked nothing like the bride from the night before. "What about the house?" she asked. Vince glanced at my father. "The house is complicated." "The house is mine," I said. My father scoffed. "You always did love drama." Claire lifted her phone. "I'm recording." My mother looked wounded. "Claire, sweetheart." "Don't sweetheart me," Claire said. "You taught me to smile while people bled." "I'm done." My father turned on her. "Everything you have came from me." Claire's face went pale, but she did not fold. "Then maybe I don't want it." That was the first time I saw fear in my father's eyes. Not fear of losing me, fear of losing the daughter he considered proof of his success. Vince opened the folder and slid a paper toward me. "Sign this, and your parents will transfer $250,000 to you immediately." $250,000. Once, that number would have knocked the air out of me. Now all I could see was my grandmother's porch. Her lemon tree. Her kitchen table. Her letter. "How much did you make selling pieces of what she left me?" I asked. No one answered. Noah spoke quietly. "Marlene says the transfers may qualify as fraud. Possibly forgery too." Vince's eyes moved sharply to him. "Your aunt should be careful making accusations." "She's careful," Noah said. "That's why she kept copies." My father went still. Claire looked at me. "There's more," she said. My stomach tightened. "What more?" She swallowed. "The signature they used? It wasn't just forged." My mother whispered, "Claire, please." Claire's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. "It was taken from a medical consent form you signed when Grandma was in hospice. Dad had you sign a stack of paperwork at the hospital. One of those pages was scanned and used later." I remembered. The fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic. Grandma Ruth asleep under a thin blanket. My father telling me to sign quickly because the nurse was waiting. Me crying too hard to read. That was twist too. Not just theft. They had used my grief as ink. Something inside me went colder than anger. My father pointed at Claire. "You have no idea what you're doing." "Yes," she said. "I do. You will destroy your marriage, your reputation, your life." Claire looked down at her wedding ring. Then she slowly pulled it off. "Maybe the life you built for me deserves to be destroyed." The room went silent. My mother covered her mouth. Preston called 17 times that afternoon. Claire did not answer. At 5 p.m., my father's attorney called me directly. His voice was smooth. "Miss Whitmore, I strongly advise you to consider the human cost of moving forward. If documents are submitted, your sister may be implicated as a beneficiary of misappropriated assets. Her condo, wedding expenses, and trust distributions could all become part of discovery." I put him on speaker. Claire heard every word. Her face went white. Vince continued, "Ask yourself if revenge is worth ruining. The only family member who finally stood beside you." For a moment, I could not breathe. There it was. The hook in the wound. They knew I could fight them. So they aimed at Claire. I looked at my sister. She was shaking. Then she reached for the phone. "This is Claire Whitmore," she said. "Do not use my guilt as a weapon against Emily. Tomorrow we tell everyone." Vince said, "Miss Whitmore, I suggest." "No," Claire said. "You suggested enough. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., at the estate. Bring whatever threats you need. I'll bring the truth." Then she hung up. I stared at her. "You could lose everything." She gave me a broken smile. "I already did. I just didn't know it because the cage was pretty." The meeting did not happen in a courthouse. It happened at the same Napa estate where my father called May a stain. Noah said that if they used that room to break me in public, I had the right to use it to stand the truth up in the same place. By 11 a.m., the wedding flowers had started to wilt. White roses sagged in gold vases. The dance floor had been cleaned, but I could still see, in my mind, the exact spot where Noah knelt. A few chairs remained stacked near the wall. The place looked haunted by a party that ended before anyone understood what they were celebrating. I wore a simple navy dress, the ring Noah gave me, and my grandmother's letter folded inside my purse. Claire arrived with me. No makeup. No jewelry. No perfect daughter armor. My parents were already there with Vince. My mother paced near the windows, checking her phone. My father stood at the head of a long table like it was a board meeting. Preston was there too, sitting stiffly with his arms crossed. He looked angry, embarrassed, and uncertain which emotion would cost him less. Noah's Aunt Marlene arrived 10 minutes later carrying a banker's box and wearing the calm expression of a woman who had spent 30 years watching rich people underestimate paperwork. My father's face changed when he saw her. That was when I knew Noah had not exaggerated. Marlene knew exactly where the bodies were buried. "Emily," my father said when I approached. "You can still stop this." "I know. We can apologize privately. We can compensate you. There is no reason to drag the family through public mud." I looked around the ballroom. "The mud started when you called me a stain in front of 200 people." My mother sighed. "You always remember pain so dramatically." I turned to her. "No, Mom. I remember it accurately now." That shut her up. We sat at the long table. Present were my parents, their attorney, me, Noah, Claire, Preston, Marlene, two relatives who had recorded the wedding toast, and my cousin Megan, who showed up uninvited with red eyes and a flash drive. My father frowned at her. "Megan, this doesn't concern you." She sat beside me. "You made all of us watch. That made it concern us." Marlene opened the banker's box. "I want Tobe clear," she said. "I am not here as anyone's attorney. I am here as a witness to records I handled while employed by the office that processed Ruth Bennett's estate documents." Ruth Bennett. My grandmother's name sounded sacred in that room. Marlene laid out copies of the original will, trust documents, deed records, bank transfers, and emails between my father and the estate attorney's former junior partner, who had apparently left the firm 2 years later under ethical pressure. Vince stiffened. Marlene began reading. "My grandmother left the Oakland Hussito me. She left a design education trust to me. She left full rights to Ruth and M Textiles to me. She specified that my father was not to manage the trust because, in her words, Richard confuses control with care." I almost smiled through the pain. Grandma Ruth had seen him clearly. My father slammed his palm on the table. "My mother was sick." Marlene looked at him over her glasses. "Not when she signed the will. Her competency evaluation was completed 8 days before execution." Vince leaned forward. "Competency can be challenged." "It can," Marlene said. "But forged transfers are harder to explain." The word hung in the air. Forged. My mother closed her eyes. My father's jaw worked. "I managed unstable assets for the good of the family," he said. I stared at him. "You stole from your daughter." He pointed at me. "You were grieving. You were directionless. You had no plan. I had a grandmother who believed in me. You had fantasies." "No," Claire said. Everyone turned. She stood. Her hands trembled, but she kept them flat against the table. "No, Dad. Emily had a future Grandma Ruth tried to protect. You took it because you wanted liquidity for the Hillside project, my condo, and the wedding." Preston's head snapped toward her. "What?" Claire turned to him. "My condo may have been bought with Emily's money." Preston's face went red. "You told me it was a gift from your parents." "That's what I thought for a long time," Claire said. "Then I knew enough to suspect. Then I was too scared to ask. That's on me." My mother's voice broke. "Claire, sit down. No, think about what this will do to you." Claire looked at her. "That sentence is why I am standing." Then Claire pulled a document from her bag. "If the condo, the wedding, or any account in my name came from Emily's inheritance, I waive my claim to it. I'll cooperate with recovery. I'll testify." Preston stood so fast his chair screeched. "Are you insane?" Claire flinched, but she did not back down. I'm trying not to be anymore. He looked at my father. Richard, say something. My father stared at Claire with pure fury. You selfish, spoiled girl. Claire laughed, but tears slid down her cheeks. You made me spoiled. Then you got mad when I stopped being useful. That was twist 3. Claire was not just confessing. She was burning down the golden cage with herself inside it. My mother began crying. At another time in my life, her tears would have pulled across the room. I would have comforted her. I would have apologized for making her feel bad about hurting me. Not that day. That day I watched her cry and finally understood that some tears are not regret. Some tears are panic wearing mascara. Vince asked for a recess. Marlene said, there is one more matter. My father's eyes narrowed. What now? Megan slid the flash drive across the table. When Grandma Ruth was sick, I visited her with my mom, she said. Grandma asked me to record something on my phone because she didn't trust Richard to deliver a letter. I forgot I had it until last night, when I saw the video from the wedding and started looking through old backups. My heart stopped. Megan opened her laptop. A video appeared. My grandmother sat in Harold's kitchen, thinner than I remembered, wrapped in a blue cardigan. Sunlight fell over her shoulder. The yellow curtains glowed behind her. Is it recording? She asked. Megan's younger voice answered, yes, Grandma. Grandma Ruth looked into the camera. Emily, if this finds you, it means something went wrong. I covered my mouth. Noah's hand found my knee under the table. My grandmother continued. I have left you the house because that is where you became yourself. Your father will say you are not ready. He has always confused obedience with maturity. Do not believe him. You are ready for your own life. You were ready long before they allowed you to know it. My father stood. Turn that off. No one moved. Grandma Ruth smiled weakly on the screen. Claire, if you see this, protect your sister if you can. And if you failed before you were brave, be brave after. Claire made a sound like her heart had torn open. The video ended. No one spoke. Not even my father. For the first time in my life, the room did not belong to him. It belonged to a dead woman in a blue cardigan who had loved me better than all the living people who should have. Vince lowered his voice. We should discuss settlement terms. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. I don't want hush money. I don't want a private apology. I want the house returned. I want the trust restored. I want Ruth and Em transferred to me. I want written acknowledgement of what happened. And I want any asset bought with stolen funds reviewed. My father laughed once. You think you can dictate terms? Marlene tapped the papers. With these documents, she can do more than dictate. Vince leaned toward my father and whispered. My father's face darkened with every word. My mother stared at me like I had become a stranger. Maybe I had. Maybe the daughter she knew was the one who accepted crumbs. That daughter was not in the room anymore. My father finally sat back down. You're enjoying this, he said. No, I said. That's the worst part. You trained me to feel guilty even when I win. His eyes flickered. I pulled my grandmother's letter from my purse. My hand shook, but my voice did not. I read the last lines aloud. Promise me you will not spend your life begging for a chair at a table where they feed you crumbs and call it love. When I finished, even Preston looked down. My mother whispered, we didn't want to lose you. I looked at her. You lost me every time you made me smaller so Claire could look perfect. Claire cried quietly beside me. My mother reached toward me. I did not take her hand. The legal process took 6 weeks. It could have taken years, but my father hated court more than he hated admitting defeat. Court meant discovery. Discovery meant emails. Emails meant investors asking questions. Investors asking questions meant Richard Whitmore was no longer untouchable. So the house came back to me. The trust was partially restored. Ruth and Em became mine. Claire gave up the condo. Preston gave her an ultimatum, stop helping me or end the marriage. She chose the truth. He moved out 4 days later. My father issued a public statement that used words like mistakes, miscommunication, and family grief. Marlene laughed when she read it and said, rich men love passive verbs. I did not laugh. Not because it was not funny. Because I was too busy holding the deed to my grandmother's house. When I walked through the front door for the first time, the house smelled like dust. Old wood, and lemon leaves. The yellow curtains were gone. The porch needed repair. One wall had water damage. The backyard was wild with weeds, and the lemon tree had grown unevenly, bending toward the sun like it had been reaching for me all these years. I stood in the kitchen and cried again. But this cry was different. It did not hollow me out. It brought me home. Noah came in quietly and set his camera bag on the floor. I can give you a minute, he said. I shook my head. No. Stay. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, and we stood there in the kitchen where Grandma Ruth used to dance barefoot while making pancakes. I thought I lost this place forever, I whispered. Noah kissed my temple. You found your way back. No, I said. She left a trail. We did not have a big wedding. After what happened at Claire's, the thought of a ballroom made me nauseous. Noah and I got married 4 months later in Grandma Ruth's backyard under the lemon tree, with 42 people, mismatched chairs, string lights, and a taco truck parked in the driveway because fancy catering suddenly felt like a threat to Claire was my maid of honor. She wore a soft yellow dress, no diamonds, no perfect updo. Her hair moved in the wind. She looked nervous and real and lighter than I had ever seen her. Before the ceremony, she found me in Grandma's bedroom, where I was trying not to cry into my mascara. I need to say something, she said. I turned. She twisted her hands. I know I don't get to ask for forgiveness like it's a gift card. I know what I did. I know I stayed quiet while you were punished for being the one Grandma loved out loud. My throat tightened. But I am sorry, she said. Not the pretty kind. The kind I have to live every day. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life being your sister even when it's uncomfortable. I looked at her. For years, it thought Claire had chosen the throne. Now I knew she had been trained to sit there without moving. That did not erase what she did. But it changed what healing could look like. I hated you, I said. She nodded, crying. I know. I needed you. I know. I don't know how to trust you all at once. I don't expect you to. That was when I hugged her. Not because everything was fixed. Because for the first time, neither of us was pretending it was. When the ceremony began, there was no father walking me down the aisle. My parents had been invited. Not because they deserved it. Because I deserved to make choices from peace, not revenge. My mother came in a gray dress and sat in the last row. My father came late, as always, and stood near the back with his arms crossed like he was attending a meeting he had not approved. There was a time when seeing him there would have made me ache. That day, it only made me notice how small he looked without a microphone. I walked halfway down the aisle alone, then Claire stepped out from the front row and took my arm. No one had planned it. She just rose, crying, and offered herself beside me. Then Noah walked toward me from the other end, meeting me under the lemon tree instead of waiting like a prize. That was how I arrived at my marriage. Not handed over by a man who never knew how to hold me. Not hidden by a mother who loved appearances more than daughters. But walking with the sister I almost lost and the man who stood up when everyone else looked down. After the vows, during the backyard dinner, my father approached me. Noah saw him and started to stand. I touched his arm. It's okay. My father stopped in front of me. His shoulders looked lower. His voice, when he spoke, had lost some of its iron. You look happy. I am. He nodded once, like happiness was a fact he could not dispute. I made mistakes. I held his gaze. No. You made decisions. His mouth tightened. For a second, I saw anger rise out of habit. Then it faded into something older. Maybe shame. Maybe exhaustion. I don't know how to repair this, he said. Start by not asking me to pretend it was less than it was. He looked toward the lemon tree. Your grandmother was always hard on me. No, I said. She saw you clearly. That hit him. He did not apologize. Not really. But he did not defend himself either, and for Richard Whitmore, silence was the closest thing to surrender. My mother approached later, holding a glass of water. She looked at my dress, my hair, my face. You look beautiful, she said. Once, those 3 words would have fed me for a month. I would have carried them carefully, like stolen bread. That day, I smiled politely. Thank you. She waited, maybe expecting to give her more. I did not. I went back to dancing. The house became my studio. I repainted the front door deep blue. I fixed the porch. I planted lavender along the walkway and kept the lemon tree wild because I liked that it refused to grow politely. I relaunched Ruth and M as a small design and textile studio. At first, I had 3 clients, a bakery in Oakland, a florist in Berkeley, and a woman in Portland who wanted labels for handmade candles. Then 3 became 12. Then 12 became 40. I made brands for people who had stories, not just budgets. Every invoice felt like reclaiming a language my father tried to steal from. I hung a small brass plaque by the door. Huchi Studio. Under it, in smaller letters, make something honest. Claire started therapy. Then she started over. She moved into a small apartment with terrible parking and good morning light. She got a job with a nonprofit that helped women leaving financially abusive families. The first time she told me, she laughed nervously and said, I'm either healing or being extremely on brand. We were not magically close. Real Lefi's not that clean. Some days, I still remembered her standing silent while my mother cut me down at Thanksgiving. Some days, she remembered me looking at her like she was our parents instead of another girl they had shaped with fear. We fought. We paused. We tried again. That was our miracle. Not instant forgiveness. Repetition. My parents did not disappear. People like them rarely do. They sent holiday cards. My mother texted photos of flowers from charity events. My father emailed articles about family reconciliation with I said no. Sometimes I agreed to coffee in public places where nobody could rewrite history without witnesses. Boundaries felt cruel at first. Then they felt like oxygen. A year after Claire's wedding, Noah and I hosted dinner in the backyard. Claire brought pie from a bakery because she still burned everything she tried to bake. Megan brought wine. Marlene brought a folder as a joke, and everyone groaned. The lemon tree was full. The string lights swayed. The house glowed behind us, no longer a stolen memory, but a living place. At the end of the night, I found Claire standing near the hallway, looking at an old photo of us with Grandma Ruth. In the picture, I was 10, Claire was 13, and Grandma had one arm around each of us. We were all laughing at something outside the frame. Claire touched the glass. "Do you think she'd be proud?" she asked. I looked at my sister, my husband, my studio, my house, my life rebuilt from pieces other people tried to bury. "Yes," I said. "But not because we won." Claire looked at me. "Then why?" "Because we stopped asking permission to live." She cried. I did too. Later, after everyone left, Noah and I sat on the back steps under the lemon tree. He held my hand, turning the ring gently around my finger like he still could not believe I had said yes. "Do you ever wish I hadn't proposed that night?" he said. I leaned my head on his shoulder. "No. It was dramatic. It was insane." He laughed softly. Then I looked through the kitchen window, where Grandma Ruth's letter sat framed on the wall. "But me happy ending didn't start when you got down on one knee," I said. "No? No. It started when I finally understood that being rejected by people who only knew how to control me was not the same as being unloved." Noah kissed my hand. "For most of my life, I thought love was a place at someone else's table. A chair my parents could pull away. A name they could shame. A house they could sell. A story they could rewrite. I was wrong. Love was my grandmother leaving a trail through paperwork and sunlight. Love was my sister telling the truth even though it burned her own life down. Love was Noah standing in a ballroom full of cowards and saying my name like it deserved protection. But freedom was mine. I was the one who walked out. I was the one who came back. I was the one who stopped living in the corner. And sometimes, late at night, when the house settles and the lemon leaves tap softly against the kitchen window, I still hear Grandma Ruth's voice in the quiet. Not asking if I finally made them proud. Not asking if I forgave everything. Just whispering the only thing I needed to know. "You are home now, Em. You are home."